Okay, I think we're good to go, peeps. Sorry for that. I think I'm on time for once. I am on time. I'm always aiming upwards. Thanks for tuning in. I don't know that we're going to have too many people today. It is the holiday weekend, and actually I had been tempted to do this either yesterday, Christmas Day, or I was going to do it at midnight on Christmas Eve, which would have been me also announcing live the winner of the Seasons contest on our Facebook page. But I was like, there's like no one's going to tune in for that. Sorry, let me turn my Facebook off. I just commented and liked a friend's comment who got engaged on Christmas, which means now my feed is going to be flooded with everyone else's congratulatory messages to him, so I have to go turn that off. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. If you're not familiar with what's going on here, if you just stumbled onto this randomly, my name is Nick. This is Board Game Brawl, and we are doing a live Q&A. I do these every week. Used to be every 2 weeks, but I think it's there's been enough bang for my buck of I don't know what the hell I'm saying. Bang for my buck out of questions, like a lot of questions enough that I decided I wanted to do it every single week, and we've had a lot of fun with it. So you can ask me anything you like. You can ask me board game related questions. Of course, you can ask me whatever, pop culture related questions, block them, or if just someone has brought up some sort of concern that I'm not aware of that needs to be addressed before the Q&A, I'll go ahead and take a look at that. Sorry, I'm just adjusting things. But what happens is when I do that, sometimes, not every time, the questions get lost. Like any questions that people ask up to that point, when I go back to the page later, gone. And that happened this time, but I was kind of anticipating it, so I copied a bunch of the questions, and then so that I can answer them just in case. But it's still possible that I'm missing some questions because YouTube ate them. So if you don't hear your question answered, and it wasn't like particularly controversial or anything, then re-ask it, because it's possible that YouTube ate it. So let's get to those. We'll start with the ones that were deleted from before. I work retail, and I'd much rather be... Wait. Is this actually a question? Yes. I work retail, and I'd much rather be watching this than working. My question, Nick, this broadcast starts at the same time as Board Game Bliss's sale. How are you going to order games? Well, I'm not too worried about taking advantage of Board Game Bliss's sales, but I wish he would tell me about those things, because I would definitely promote them more. I guess Board Game Bliss is having a sale. Go and either keep this open in one browser window and go check it out on another tab, or go there right after the Q&A. Love Board Game Bliss, love my sponsor. We just had that great contest that was sponsored by them. They provided the copy of Seasons, which was their idea. I mean, I do contests on my own, but I don't know. We have a really good partnership in other ways. I just won't bother him. But he approached me about that, Bosco, the head of Board Game Bliss, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do a contest, and we'll be doing more of those in the future." I think it went very well. Okay, next, why you poop? It's fun. I get a lot of my good tablet time done at that point. If you could do a top 10 with the Dice Tower guys, what topic would you choose? I mean, I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I don't know. Probably not anything I can think of right off the top of my head. Picard or Cisco, who is the better captain? Picard. Now that is a horse race, though. And if you ask me Picard and Kirk, no question, it's Picard. I do not like the original series. I don't. I realize half the audience just turned off, but half of the 24. But that's not even a question, Picard versus Kirk. Picard versus Cisco, though, is a little more thoughtful. I still pretty clearly come down on the side of Picard, but I liked Cisco a lot. I think part of the problem that I had with Cisco is that I was letting real life interfere with my opinion of the character, because I remember reading an interview with, is it Avery White? Is that his name? It's Avery something. He pretty clearly said, I have no interest in Star Trek. I never liked it. I don't like this geeky sci-fi stuff. I just auditioned for the role and I got it. And I don't think that he's been that, maybe I'm wrong on this, but it doesn't seem like he's been that actively involved in the fan community or anything. He's like kind of one of those like, who's the guy that played Obi-Wan Kenobi? Like that guy was like notoriously like, I don't want to be involved in this. I did my part. I did my role. I'm done. I'm out. And I don't know. I kind of get that impression from the guy who played Cisco. And that kind of peppers my opinion of the character. But the character is good. I mean, it's great. And I like Deep Space Nine a lot. But Picard is great. And, oh man. It's early for me because I just woke up not too long ago, and I'm kind of blanking. Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart is just a class act and a really nice guy all the way around. So, what is one mechanism that has only been in 1 or 2 games that you'd like to see used a lot more often? I like the system of Dixit and Mysterium with the using cards that just have art to intimate something as a main gameplay mechanism. And I don't know if that's been used enough. There was another game that I never played. I just watched a review for it that used that system, and people were talking. It was like a nothing game. Like I don't even know that it was released in North America. It might have just been like an Essen game from like last year. But it was supposed to be about emotions, and you use cards with artwork on them, and people were even talking about using Dixit cards for that game. So there have been a few, but not that many, and I think that's a great mechanism. I'd like to see it used in more creative and gamey ways. That was kind of what Mysterium was. Mysterium was like the gamey version of Dixit, but still not that much. If someone spontaneously gave you $500,000, what would you do? I'd pay off all of my debt. I've got a lot of debt. I'd get rid of that. Buy a new car. And when I say new car, I don't mean like a fancy car. I'd probably just buy like, I don't know, something nice and reliable. I would treat my dog. I would buy a house up north. Yeah. With that amount of money, it doesn't see. I mean, I know that's not a lot of money by today's standards, but for me, for a single guy who doesn't have very high standards of living, that's a lot. That's life changing, completely and utterly. I always laugh when people are like, $1 million isn't quite the prize it used to be. Oh, you think? Hold on a second. Let's analyze that for a second. When you're not someone who's upper middle class or rich already. All right, we're back to questions that are actually in the thread now, if you guys are keeping track. I'm actually going to scroll down, though, to make sure I'm not having any kind of issues. Okay, what are your plans with the channel for 2016? Anything in specific you would like to share? No, I don't have anything like events planned. I want to improve the channel all the time. I have lingering things I want to get done with the channel from previous years that I have been more difficult than I would have imagined. Like getting artwork for the channel, like for thumbnails and title art and a new logo. Getting like little animations and things that aren't just like cheapo stuff you can get from programs. I want something customized for the channel, and it's been very difficult to find people willing to work with me on that. I can't even like get quotes from people or commission people. It's very weird. I would love to get like a really nice camera, like the kind of camera they use for shooting like the PBS Idea channel or something, like film grade camera would be nice, and lighting. But yeah, that's the thing, is that mostly what I want to do is just do stuff to improve the quality of the channel. I guess I'm okay with my content. I wish I was making enough money off of the channel and everything to just stop doing the previews altogether, and that's something I would like to change and consider scaling back in the new year, but I just can't do it right now. I'm kind of happy with how everything else is going. I think this is what the channel is going to be. It's just a matter of making it look better and building up my reputation. For some people, my reputation is just shot, and that's all it's ever going to be, but it is what it is. You seem like such a likable guy. Why are you such a lone wolf? That's just how I've been my entire life. I kind of value my freedom. I don't like being, I don't like getting too familiar with people. Well, I don't know. It's just the way I am. It's hard to explain why. I don't like groups. I don't like being part of clubs. I don't like being beholden to them. It starts to feel like you have to toe a certain line for people, and if you act out of line, then people are like, well, what's going on with that? I'm like, well, I'm doing my own thing, and I want to do my own thing. I'm speaking in very vague generalities, but that's kind of it. Happy Boxing Day. Happy Boxing Day to people who celebrate Boxing Day. Like I think Bosco from Board Game Bliss, actually. How many times do you usually play a game before reviewing it? As many times as it takes. There is no set number of plays. If I feel like a game is horrifically awful, I may even still play it twice, but that's probably about it because I don't want to inflict too much more onto my group. If I feel that a game is utterly fantastic, I may only play it a couple of times because I'm pretty sure about it. If I feel like there's any kind of doubt whatsoever, I either will put it on the back burner and just play it whenever I can get to it, or immediately play it multiple times because I want to get the review done. But it's just no set amount. There just isn't. That's all I can say. I see you have the Manhattan Project in your collection, but not on your top 100. What do you think of it? I think it's a very good worker placement game. I think it was in my top 100 last year. Just didn't make it this year because a lot of new games got onto the list and pushed out a bunch of older games. But it's a good game. Definitely. I mean, it would be in my next 50 probably. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's got a very weird arc to it that a lot of other games don't, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the theme. So, yeah, and there's some stuff coming out for it this year. I'm curious to see what that's like, because I have not played with the first big expansion. I've only played with the Nations expansion, which is just a small deck of, nation cards that people get. But there's a big expansion, what is it called? The second project or something? Second stage? But people have been very lukewarm on it, so I've been kind of not worried about playing it. What is your top 5 games or expansions for 2016? Well, I made a list of for 2016. I'm sorry. Well, that is actually going to be coming out soon. So today I've got 2 things I'm working on for the channel. I'm going to do a review of here. I've actually started laying it out for the review. I can show you. What is all of this? Enemy sighted. Oh, Wampa, Wampa! Yes, this is the Battle for Hoth expansion for Star Wars Imperial Assault. So I'll be doing that review today. Hopefully, yes, I will be, for sure. But hopefully, and it's not 100%, I'll be doing my top 10 anticipated games list for 2016. I'm going to do that maybe about a week earlier than I normally would, just to get the drop on other people on that. So yeah, expect to see that, and then you'll have your answer. Although I probably won't include expansions. Expansions are a funny thing. I think it's better for me to spotlight whole games on the channel, because I even thought about doing a top 5 of the year for expansions, but I don't know that people were necessarily all interested in that. If I like a game, I'm going to get the expansion. But there are definitely some good expansions on the way. Dead of Winter's expansion, for sure. You know what? That's a big enough one. Maybe I will include that on the list. I don't know. I've accumulated all the games I'm potentially going to put on the list, but part of what I have to do today is actually put them in list format before I film. So I always wait till the last minute to do that in case things change in the news. Nick, if you had to choose between Kemet or Blood Rage, which one would you choose? I just ordered Blood Rage. Well, on my top 100, I put Blood Rage above Kemet. Not by too much. I think Kemet was either in my 20s or in my teens, right? Now, I just did my review of I finally did a review of Kemet, which I could have done a long time ago. I just never got around to it. But I wanted to do it now because I wanted to review the expansion, which I did. And having played the expansion and having played Kemet for the first time in a while, with some of those bits of the expansion, like the Black Pyramids, I'm seriously reconsidering it. Kemet maybe should have been right at the outskirts of my top 10. It's such a good game. It is such a good game. Let me tell you what happened with the last game that I played. I played with the expansion. No, wait, I'm sorry. This was the first of the games I played with the expansion, right? And I shouldn't have done this, but I played the first game I did with the expansion. I was like, screw it, use everything, right? And then when we got to the second game I played with the expansion, I was just like, you know what, let's just use the bits I'm not too sure about and not throw everything in, because it's probably a bit too much, right? But we did everything for the first game anyways. And it ended up, a lot of games at Kemet end up like this, but this one was great, where it's just like a total squeaker at the end, right? So I don't know if you guys have played Kemet or not. I'm assuming some of you have. But at the last round, it came down to me and one other guy who were basically in contention. It was a 3-player game. The other player was, I mean, not like he was totally out, but he was a couple points behind us, which in Komet is like a huge gulf. And what ended up happening was I'm looking at the board state. I'm looking at the actions that we have left. And I'm realizing I don't think I can win. Because the way that it was that he and I were going to be tied for points at the end. And sure enough, what ended up happening was there's 3 tiebreakers in Komet. So it's technically whoever gets to 8 or 10 points, we were playing to 8 points, will be the winner of the game if he maintains that until the end of the round. Because it's first person to get to that threshold will trigger the end of the game at the end of that day phase if that person maintains 8 points, right? Unless someone else has also gotten to 8 points at that point. And if someone surpasses those points, so it gets to 9 or 10 points, whoever has the most points will be the winner. That's the first tiebreaker. The second is whoever has the most victory points garnered from battle. We were tied on that. So then it goes to the third tiebreaker, which is turn order. Whoever played earlier in the turn order wins. And my rival won on that. I was so frustrated, but at the same time, and especially since it was his first time playing, although he's very, very, very smart and picks up things quickly, so I shouldn't feel too bad about that. But I was frustrated, but at the same time, I was like, that's a sign of a great game. It's why I liked Shakespeare last year, because every game of that I played was super tight at the end. And was like, I screwed up here if I had done this instead of this. And sure enough, in that game of Komet, I was like, yeah, if I had not focused so much here and had done things here, listen, that game was amazing. What I'm going to have to do is, in between now and the next top 100, I'm going to make it a point to play Blood Rage and Komet back to back and see. But they're both great. Best 2-player board games of 2015? That's like my worst genre, but they're the hardest ones for me to get to the table. I want to answer your question, though, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look back at my reviews for the year. And it's also, I don't know, my head's kind of foggy right now. It's hard for me to think of games that, off the top of my head. Huh. Orleans plays surprisingly well with 2. Warhammer Quest plays very well with 2. I suppose you're looking for specific 2-player games. Risk Star Wars Black Edition is supposed to be a 2-player game and plays very well. Very quick and easier to set up than the other one, although I still like the Queen's Gambit more. Abyss has always played very well with 2 players. Epic PvP, great 2-player game. You can play that with more players. I don't recommend it. I know you want my favorite. Well, alright, I don't feel like going back through everything I've done to try and remember, so I'm going to go ahead and declare, I'm talking slowly so I can look through more of them. I'm going to go ahead and, I haven't done much output in the last few months, have I? That's too bad. I'm going to go ahead and declare that Epic PvP was one of my favorite 2-player games of the year. It's a really good one. What was it? I'll feel really stupid if in my top 10 list for last year I had a higher ranked 2-player game. Let's take a look. I've definitely rabbit trailed. I should not have. But it's a valid question. It could be a useful question. Let's see what we got here. I'm looking at my top 10 list right now. Discoveries is really good with 2 players. Forbidden Stars plays very good with 2 players. I was surprised by that. But Forbidden Stars, that sometimes can feel like it's only 2 players doing anything when someone's in combat. That's the reason. So, for games that are specifically made for 2 players, I'm going to go ahead and say Epic PvP. But for games that can be played with any amount of players that play very, very well at 2 players, or the best with 2 players, I'm going to say Forbidden Stars. My wife gave me 5 board games to start my collection. Those are Small World, Jamaica, Pandemic, Ticket to Ride, and King of Tokyo. I think that's a fine allotment of games, although I haven't played Jamaica, but I think you're off to a very good start. Can you recommend 1 or 2 more games that have like a balanced board game system for a starter like me? That's always going to be tough because there's a lot of different aspects of this involved, whether you like the theme or not. That is a very fine allotment of games. You might want more of a party game in there. King of Tokyo is lighter, but I hesitate to call it a party game per se. So you maybe want a good party game and look into what you think you might like. Resistance is a very good, very popular one, but that's not for everybody. It involves a lot of lying and subterfuge and screaming at people. Werewolf also involves those things, but maybe is a little more subdued, so maybe that's more of your thing. Dixit, there you go. Dixit is a great one that maybe skirts the boundaries between party game and just light game, but definitely is easy to pick up once you figure out the scoring, which is the trickiest thing. But once you've got that, it's a very easy game to learn, to teach, and it's very colorful and bright. It's not like the most thematic. The theme is brought to it by the players themselves. I think Dixit would be a great game for you and your group, if that's the type of stuff that you're getting. What is your most anticipated? Did you just ask that already, or did I skip ahead before? Hi Nick, any chance of doing a top 10 Ameritrash games or genre-specific top 10s instead of mechanics-driven lists? I'm going to try to make up some creative ideas for top 10s in 2016. Maybe I'll end up just copying others. But as far as Ameritrash games, I don't think so. Like when I was doing my top 100 and I was doing the stats at the end, I was thinking of doing like, how many Ameritrash games did I have? How many Euro games did I have? Eurotrash games. And so on and so forth. And then as I'm going through the list, I'm like, wow, some of these I can't tell. Like some of these, the boundaries are so blurred that I can't even tell, and like what technically qualifies as a Euro game, what technically qualifies as an Ameritrash game. I feel like those things, I don't know. I feel like while those categories are still there, and it's like that old saying from the congressman about pornography. I can't tell you what pornography is, but I know it when I see it. So I still know that those terms are applicable, and I can tell you what I feel like is an Ameritrash game or a Euro game. But to make a list of it, I think that would be tough. But who knows? I think an Ameritrash game list is more viable than a Euro game list, at least for me. Huh. Merry Christmas, Nick. Merry Christmas to you. Have you tried Zombies Medieval by Twilight Creations? I would be interested in a comparison between that and Black Plague. Well, hold on a second. Is that a spin-off game of their zombies with the exclamation points thing? Oh boy. I just got reprimanded on Board Game Geek. That's funny. For what? Alright, now I'm curious. Are you serious? That is ridiculous. Of all the comments I've said that I would be like, yeah, okay, maybe that needed to have user moderation. Someone put up a stupid comment when I was like I made a comment about Tonto Quarry and then someone responded, people like Tonto, isn't that just a Dominion clone? So I responded with a pic that said obvious troll is obvious, that has a picture of a troll, and someone flagged it. Screw you. Screw you. I am really sick of Board Game Geek sometimes. Anyways, what was I even talking about? Now that I've been completely sidetracked by that. Zombies Medieval. I apologize, person who asked me that question. Ugh. Like, seriously? People are such precious flowers. How do people survive in the real world? Can I ask that question? Like, how do you go through your entire life and, like, do you just avoid conflict at all times? Avoid people with disagreeing opinions? Have you never been, like, teased by a friend? Anyways. Wow, okay, Zombies Medieval does not have a very good rating. It looks to be a takeoff of... Yeah, someone even put a comparison picture of the box to Army of Darkness next to Medieval. I don't know. I've never played Medieval. It doesn't look very good. I think that I haven't played Black Plague yet. I'm playing that today and tomorrow. But I would think that based on previous zombie sides, I'm going to say that this is probably better. What do you do for a living? Do you wish that your YouTube channel would be your full-time job? I work at a printing and marketing company down in Pompano. Well, no, Coconut Creek. And do I wish my YouTube channel would be my full-time job? I guess so. Although, as you can just notice from there's some parts of this job that I'm not really keen on, and I'm getting kind of sick of dealing with trolls. But maybe I'm just in the moment right now and can't think properly. Yes, I'd like it to be a full-time gig. How do you picture yourself in 10 or 20 years? I don't imagine I'm going to live that long, is probably my personal opinion on that. I do not think that far ahead of time. So, we'll see. Good game to get for someone who's only played Yahtzee or other simple board games. I was thinking Favor of the Pharaohs is a good step up. I don't know much about that game. I had considered getting it, but my backlog is already enough as it is that I don't want to pick up any new games on my own if I can avoid it, unless it's really hot. But I've heard good things about that. Depends on how simplistic they want it to be or what themes that they like. I mean, King of Tokyo is the most famous game right now that uses the Yahtzee mechanic, but that's not for everybody, and obviously it's a lighter one if you want something a little more complicated. Roll for the Galaxy, not that it uses the Yahtzee mechanic, but so much, but it is dice manipulation, rolling dice, using some dice to do other things, and sometimes being able to re-roll those dice. But that's a more complicated thing. What else are some really good ones? Dice. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. Dice are really being used in a lot of creative ways now. Voyage's Marco Polo is a great dice placement game. It's heavier. I don't think it's a heavy Euro, but maybe it's at least an upper moderate. There's different grades. I think the most important thing is to know that you have a lot of options, and if you post on Board Game Geek, you'll get more options than even I gave you. So then it's just a matter of, okay, what is this person going to like theme-wise? How much game can they take? I mean, what's their level of gameitude right now? Avery Brooks, thank you. All right, here's this guy's hierarchy of Treks. Next Generation, DS9, the original series, Voyager, everything else. Yes, I'll agree with that. I'd probably watch the original series over Voyager. Yeah, okay, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one, Quarantine. What do your family members think of your channel? Who knows? I'm not even sure that they know I have a channel at all because I haven't been in contact with my family in years. And vice versa. Sir Alec Guinness, thank you. Yeah, okay, I've heard that about him too, that Avery Brooks is kind of spaced out. Thoughts on the shut up and sit down? Wait a second. Dang it, YouTube. I just lost everything. No, that's okay. Thoughts on the shut up and sit down, guys? Primarily a website based. I know they do some YouTube stuff too. I don't follow any other stuff. I'm not really interested in it. I think I watched a little bit and decided it just wasn't for me. They also really pissed me off with their incredibly long and preachy article about Cards Against Humanity. It took 3 people writing an excessive amount of words to say, I'm offended by this and I don't like it. It's so, I don't know. So that really put them in left a bad taste in my mouth. But you're entitled to your opinion. It's not like I would not watch them just for that sole reason, but I don't have any interest in their other content either. Would Janeway have been a better character if she was more of a Kirk than a second-rate Picard? Fair point. I was never really on board with Kate Mulgrew in particular. Female captain, yes, all day long, that's fine. But Kate Mulgrew in particular, yeah, maybe you wanted someone a little bit younger and more vital in that role. And it's never really a good idea to just try to shamelessly copy someone who did something so well and made it his own, like Picard did. By the way, I'm not a Trekkie. So I could be. There's people who are actual Trekkies who could like beat my head into the ground with knowledge and more thorough and nuanced opinions. I'll totally admit that. Have you played Rum and Bones? Any reviews on it down the pipe? I am so sorry. Well, I apologize to not only the fans, but to Cool Meaning or Not, because they actually sent me a copy for review, and it's just sitting there. This is part of the two-player game problem, okay? I know that you can technically play Rum and Bones with 4 players in teams. Maybe you can even do it 6. But I don't want to do it that way. I know it's meant to be played 2-player. I've heard this from people, and that's the way I want to play it, at least for my first couple of plays, and I just haven't been able to have time alone with someone who would want to play that kind of game outside of the group. So, and when I'm with my group, it's got to be multiplayer games because we have too many people for that. Since you have strong opinions on DS9, was it the anti-Trek? Well, I don't know. I think a lot of DS9 had the same kind of things and themes going on as the other Treks, right? I mean, like finding new alien races and discoveries and having to science your way out of a problem. But yeah, it felt like they did focus. I mean, it was a war. The majority of DS9, I think, took place during like the Dominion War, and that gave it a very different feel. But it still felt grounded in that universe, if that makes sense. And it got better with Worf. What are some of the best negotiation games? I've never been that into negotiation games, but I like Cosmic Encounter, obviously. That's my number, I think, 3 game of all time. Number 2 or number 3. I like Dragon's Gold. Dead of Winter has some negotiation. Sheriff of Nottingham is a good game. Yeah. What do you think of the Conan board game? Hold on. Do you think it's going to be better than Descent and Star Wars Imperial Assault? It remains to be seen. At this point, Descent and Imperial Assault pretty much do everything I would want if I actually had the time for campaign games. Like, I played through Battle for Hoth because I forced 2 different groups to be like, we're playing this, and I have to review it, so we have to go through as much of it as we can. But on a regular basis, I can't sit there and do a big, massive Descent campaign. It's one of the reasons why I haven't reviewed Descent. I could review Descent. I've played it enough, but I can't really comment on the expansions, I should say. Even though I have some of them. So that's why I'm kind of worried about Conan, because I'm like, do I really need another one of these games? I've heard that it's got a lot more interesting things going on, and it's better for modern board gamers than those other ones are, but is it going to kill those other games? I don't know. I'm not. I back the game on the virtues of it's a fantasy game with amazing miniatures, and it's one versus all. And that's in my wheelhouse of games that I like. But I'm not like a huge fan of Conan in particular. I think of those 3 games you mentioned, Descent is the theme that I like the best. So it's a wait and see type of thing. Any suggestions on teaching complex games like Tzolk'in to casual gamers? If they're really casual gamers, you need to ease them into it. And definitely don't try to just jump right into it with something like that. I mean, I've never played Tzolk'in, but I know that it is kind of a complex game. You need to find entry-level gateway things. The stuff that I like that's entry-level and gateway, a lot of other people wouldn't necessarily like, and vice versa. But, I mean, Ticket to Ride, even though I'm not the biggest fan of that game, that's always been a good one. And if you can explain that, and people have picked it up pretty well, maybe it's not a big leap to go to the next thing. But if you haven't laid in that groundwork, that's a tough one. If you have, and you still want tips for teaching a more complicated game, I'll say the same general tips I always give. Explain very clearly and thoroughly what you're trying to do, what the theme is, what the victory conditions are, and then start explaining the game bit by bit. Give an overall summary of what you need to do first, and then people will start to make those connections as you explain the bits and pieces. But until you do that, people are just going to be confused. Have you ever lived in an area that was a board game player desert? Any horror stories on groups you had to live with from that time? Well, no. I never started playing games of any type. Started with role-playing games, and I moved into board games. But I never started playing any of those games until I moved down here to Florida again. And it's never been a difficult thing for me. Well, it was difficult for role-playing games finding the groups that would play the games I wanted to play, but I was very happy with my D&D group and still hang out with some of those people. It was just tough to find people I wanted to play with, and I did have some bad experiences with people playing World of Darkness who would only LARP, and I didn't want to LARP, and it was just weird and uncomfortable for me. But as far as board games, I've been pretty lucky in that regard. Hi Nick, would you recommend Kemet with 2 players? Thanks for the detailed review of it. That is the only player count I have not played Kemet at. I've played Kemet several times 5-player, several times 4-player. I think this past week I might have played it 3 players for the first time. It's been a long time since my last series of plays with it though. So I might have played it 3-player before, but I'm pretty confident I haven't played it 2-player before. So I'm sorry I can't comment on that. I was thinking about it during my review, though. I think it would work pretty well. I would think it would just be very tense. Like it's much more wide open though, because you're not fighting people as much for the tiles. I don't think the rules have any kind of other stipulations other than using one of the particular boards and cutting off part of the landmass. So all the power tiles are available, and now if you've got the expansion, you've got 4 different sets of tiles to choose from. So you and your opponent could have seriously different play styles, and one of you could just be hyper aggressive. And that's an interesting thing too. What if you put yourself in a situation where one player is going hyper aggressive, like red tiles, for instance? The other player says, "Well, okay, I won't even try to put up a fight," and takes like the tiles that let you get victory points for, let me rescind that. The other player says, "Well, okay, I'll just be on the defensive." So that player takes all the tiles and give them bonuses to defense. All the tiles that, I think there's now 2 different things, a skill and a power tile that lets you get a victory point for or not for losing, but for defending successfully. That's really interesting. I need to make that maybe a thing to do this year. Play that game 2-player finally. Oof, I love Kemet. Did you enjoy playing Core Worlds plus the expansion? It is not in your top 10 deck building games for 2015. It's not. I need to play that game again. I played it once and then just kind of got shoved off to the side. And I did play it with the expansion stuff. Definitely better with the expansion. I'm sorry, I'm stifling a sneeze. But I don't know. Something about that game. It's a deck building game, and it's got a sci-fi theme, and it's very interesting in a lot of regards, and I should love it, perhaps. But it's very long. It's perhaps a bit too complicated for its own good. I kind of just feel like there's other games where I can get the same feelings of the things that I like from Core Worlds in an easier, shorter time frame. I kind of think Core Worlds is not quite as great as... I think a lot of people fell in love with Core Worlds when you didn't have a ton of options. Let me put it that way. Do you think you'll do a paid preview for Wits and Wagers Epic Geek? I do not think so. I seem to notice that several people are complaining that there is no good game based on time traveling. How would you suggest a game with such a theme to be created? Mechanism, story, etc. Well, I disagree with those people strongly, because I think Time Stories is an excellent game about time travel. I think that Tragedy Looper, perhaps not as much, but is also an excellent game about time travel. And it is a tough thing to do. I know there's just a game that came out called Loop Inc., but it's from... what's his name? The guy from Tiny Epic Kingdoms. So I'm not particularly interested in it. But... yeah, it's not like a super easy thing to do, and I know there's a Back to the Future game coming out, but I'm sure it's going to be awful. I'm sorry. I love Back to the Future as a theme, and so I would be excited about a Back to the Future board game, but this one is coming from IDW and Pandasaurus, who... Now, Pandasaurus has had some great games, and they have... And Manchikoro's okay. I'm glad that they picked up Dragon's Gold and they redistributed that, but some of their original games are awful or completely and utterly mediocre. And also, Kevin Wilson... No, I'm sorry. This is not the one from Kevin Wilson. That's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that I'm worried about from IDW and Kevin Wilson for next year. This one is from a couple of designers. Is it Tom Riddle and Matt Burke? One of those two, I think, is correct. Who are teaming up for this, and they did like Fleet and maybe a couple of other games together. And I have zero interest in those games, and I don't know. I'm worried. I don't think this is going to be that great. But anyways, and for that reason, together with, back to your original question, I think it's just difficult to do a time traveling game because it ends up just being like a moving cards around thing. I don't know what this one's going to be, but the original Back to the Future card game, which was a takeoff of Chrononauts, and Chrononauts itself were just that. Put cards in a different order, try to get your flux type victory conditions, that type of crap. That's why Time Stories was so good and so revolutionary. But I'm guessing a lot of people who say there hasn't been a good time travel game yet hate Time Stories because of its lack of replayability. But hey, maybe that's what needs to happen for a good game sometimes. Have you seen Star Wars Episode 7 yet? I have. What were your impressions of it? I have read and seen some hate towards it, but I honestly enjoyed it even more than the originals. I think I agree with your assessment. I loved it. And it's if you go and watch my last Q&A, I talked about this a little more in depth, so I'm not going to belabor the point here right at the get-go of last week's Q&A. But I really loved it. It is possible it's one of my favorites. I'm going to go see it again in the theater some point before it leaves, which probably won't be for a while. I actually didn't see it in IMAX yet, so I'll try and go see it in IMAX. But I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. I love the characters. What's your favorite color, or what's your color in Magic the Gathering? It used to be blue, I think, overall. Blue and then white. I loved... It used to be much easier to do these types of things, but I used to love counterspelling. I loved Merfolk. And then for white, I loved having like the weenie armies and the knights and banding, which doesn't even exist anymore because it was far too complicated and stupid. So those, I think, would be my favorite colors. And then it would go blue and white in almost neck and neck, green, black, red. Maybe I'd even go black, green, red. Red is definitely last, though, because I am not into that play style at all. I don't like the really slow creatures to summon, like the big dragons. Dragons are cool, but they're just so impractical unless you're doing other stuff like doing a green-red deck that lets you get them out quicker, of course. Green-red deck is a fun deck to play. That was one of my favorite decks I used to play back in the day. For Ice Age, I had a green-red deck with like snow-covered lands. Boo. Those were amazing when they first came out. And I don't like direct damage. It's just not my style. Although I do like Chandra Nalar as a character. I'll say that. Are you excited for February 19th to reign over Sensible Castle? Will your reign be glorious? What would you prefer to be known for by your people? So if you don't know what's going on here, Cards Against Humanity, as it might have been their last thing for the Hanukkah present this year. Their 10 days of Hanukkah bullshit. Everyone got a notice saying that they used part of the money to buy a castle in Scotland. Or in Ireland, excuse me. And I think they bought it, or maybe they're just renting it for a period of time. And they sent this really cool, like, funny drawn map of it and of the area. And an official decree saying that with your name on it that says, for this period of time, you will be, of a period no less than and no more than 3 minutes, you will be the king of that castle. And it said something like... Long may you live and short may you reign, or something like that. So, yes, I will have to do something. It's for a very specific time as well. I will have to do something funny for that. You mentioned playing Don't Turn Your Back. Will you be putting up a review? Someday. Oh, boy, that game just kind of got forgot about. I might have to play it again since I've forgotten about some of the stuff in it. What's in the wooden box behind you above Legend of Drizzt? That is the flick 'em up. I took it out of its like cardboard sleeve. I am turning 34 on Monday. Please give a shout out to my awesomeness. No. Do you have any anime? Okay, I'm sorry, I will. Nikolai, happy birthday to you. That's the same age as me, by the way, although I will beat you in about 26 days, 25 days. Do you have any anime guilty pleasures? My friends usually give me shit for loving Princess Tutu, and well, they should. But no, I'm sure I certainly have a lot of anime guilty pleasures. In my early 20s, I really liked Cardcaptor Sakura. I was like the tone of that show. It wasn't like most kids anime, like in your face, like we're doing some crazy stuff. It was just like very slow and sedate, and I liked the concept of her chasing down these cards, and I just thought it was a very sweet show with really good animation for the time. I like Digimon still to this day. I just downloaded some new Digimon movie that came out. I'm like, oh shit, it's like the grown-up characters from the original. I'll check that out. None of my favorites, though. All of my favorites I'm pretty happy with, and I'm not too ashamed of because they're more serious. But it's legit. But yeah, I'm sure there's some that I'm ashamed of besides those as well. What else did I like? Those things don't ever hold my interest for that long, though. That's the problem. I thought the accent in Kemet was in the first syllable. Kemet. You know what? I'm blocking you. Or I'm warning you. If you do that again, I will block you. I don't care how it's pronounced. Mr. E. That is your real name. If you haven't commented on it already, what are your thoughts about Asmodee North America and Fantasy Flight Games' decision concerning retailers and its impact on prices for the consumers? If you go over on my Facebook page, I made 2 very long posts about this. I'm not happy with it, and I realize that a lot of this is biting the hand that feeds me because Asmodee and I have had a good partnership with me receiving review copies of their games. And while that has never been the case with me in Fantasy Flight, I review Fantasy Flight games all the time, and I'm a huge fan of them. But I have to tell you, the whole thing smells really bad. There's not enough detailed information. I don't know why they're not releasing all the information, like which online retailers are going to be allowed to sell under their new strict guidelines. Why are there strict guidelines? Why are all these other major companies able to sell wherever they want without these restrictions and still make money? Why is Hasbro able to sell wherever they want and still make money? Why do you have to be different? We don't have enough details. They are being incredibly slow with details. They put out a clarification letter for their first letter that also needs clarification. I mean, I am hoping that because it's taking so long for them to actually dole out any information, that perhaps they're rethinking the whole strategy based on negative feedback. But as Eric Martin pointed out in his original post on the subject, the truth of the matter is the hardcore hobby user base, we'll just say BGG as the prime example of that for right now, is a tiny fraction. Maybe not tiny, but like the smallest fraction of their user base. It's the truth, as much as we might want to think that we are the cornerstone of their income. So they're not thinking about us, and maybe we're the only people that care about that. Other people who are not hardcore would be like, okay, I'll just buy my stuff through Amazon or Target. Who cares? So it's a frustrating situation all around. I don't know what to say about it other than that. Which modular board game succeeds best at providing different playing experiences? I don't know what you mean by that. What do you mean by modular? Do you mean like games that have different game modes? Or do you mean like a Descent style game? Clarify that, Nathaniel. Do you enjoy gaming marathons, and would you do another in the future? I do. It seems doubtful at this point because my group is so fractured, and I prefer to do gaming marathons with some dedicated friends that I enjoy spending time with, and all those people moved away in the last year. So, BattleCon, that's a good 2-player game, but I'm not really counting that as this year because I haven't reviewed it since last year. Seven Wonders Duel, that's a good one, yes. But it wasn't on my top 10. Do you think BGG's game ratings are overvalued by people purchasing games? Yes, especially since if you're new to the game hobby and you go off of their top 10, you're going to find some very heavy Euro games you may not be able to understand. Do you know or keep up with Warhammer 40k? I don't keep up with it. Whenever there's like a game from Fantasy Flight, I'll interact with the world in that regard. And I do like the lore, but it's not something I keep up with at all. Have you ever tried painting minis? If you have any chance, we will see them. I have never tried, but it's on my back burner of many things I want to do. I just watched Force Awakens, Nick. I still love The Empire more. It's a horse race between Empire Strikes Back and The Force Awakens for sure. Just wondering, did you even watch the prequel trilogy? Of course I did. I can never scrub those memories out of my brain. At this point, I will never watch them again, but what I will watch again and again and again, because they're hilarious, are the Red Letter Media reviews from Plinkett of the Star Wars prequels, which I highly recommend if you're not too easily offended. The framing device for the reviews from Red Letter Media is this character, this persona from the main host, Mike Stacklasa, called Mr. Plinkett, who's like this violent, abducting, like just horrible person. So as he's going through the review, it's intercut with like these like scenes from what he's doing in his house, and it's very brutal. And I wish that they hadn't done that, but even though some of it is funny. But the actual meat of the review is both funny and like so detailed. He breaks down why the Star Wars prequels aren't just bad for Star Wars, they're bad films. That's the perspective he comes from. So he doesn't just spend like an hour talking about how stupid Jar Jar is. He barely touches on Jar Jar during the Phantom Menace review, actually. It's only later in like his episode 3 review he comments more on Jar Jar in a broad perspective. But he talks about how there's so many things that are nonsensical in those movies. The plot doesn't make any sense. There's so many holes, and that all of that stuff could have been forgiven, like it was in Force Awakens, which doesn't have the best plot either. It's just a lot of reused stuff. But all of that can be forgiven if the characters are actually likable and make sense, and they don't in those prequels. But do watch the Red Letter Media channel. The Best of the Worst is also a great show on that channel. What game in your collection would you like to get to the table before the new year starts? Well, today I am treating myself. After I do some work on the channel, like those 2 videos I mentioned earlier, the top 10 anticipated and the Battle for Hoth review, or Return to Hoth review, I am going to be playing Kingdom Death Monster all day. I'm treating myself to that. Ha 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 ha. When does South Florida become a 4 gaming mecca? Maybe a typo there, but a gaming mecca? Well, because by mere virtue of the fact that Vassal is here, I think it has become that, because he is single-handedly, keeping a group alive down in Miami and keeping it meeting regularly and attracting more people. That's the reason why. And because he chooses to have his convention down here. Do you need to have played a game before you give it a ranking on BGG's website? No, because BGG doesn't require you that you do that. And even if they did, people wouldn't be honest about it. When did South Florida become a hub for board games? Oh, okay. You just rephrased your... because Vassal. Nick, I love BattleCon, Pixel Tactics Noir, Argent Consortium. I have yet to play a level 99 game that I haven't enjoyed. Would you recommend, or have you even played Millennium Blades? I have not played Millennium Blades. I made some disparaging remarks about their Kickstarter because it was a confusing mess. It was like they put together a bunch of paragraphs of what the game was like and then put them all in a bag and threw them out on the Kickstarter project page. And I think they clarified that as the project went on. But I'm still confused by what it's supposed to be. And I'm very interested in it. I don't have grand aspirations that it's going to be great. I was more interested in Exceed because it seemed like a blend of BattleCon and Yomi. So that's the one I'm more excited for. But I haven't played Millennium Blades, and I can't give you a recommendation either way. When I was growing up in South Florida in the 80s and 90s, there was no giant gaming scene. Well, I don't think there was any giant gaming scene anywhere for tabletop gaming back in the 80s and 90s. That's part of the reason too. A rising tide floats all boats, and gaming over the world is hot right now. It does seem like all the board game reviewers are from the South Florida area. What's going on down there? That was pure coincidence. I started getting into modern board games because I was getting burned out on D&D. I had just broken up with my longtime girlfriend and needed an outlet, something else to do with my time. And so I had dabbled in some board games like Dominion and Ascension and the D&D adventure games. So I was like, well, I guess I'll do this and see if there's any board gaming groups going on around here. And then I just kind of delved into it. And then as I started getting more and more into it and started watching reviews online to get recommendations, I noticed that Vassal was, hey, he's from down here. And even then, it still took a while for us to contact each other, or I contacted him. And then Vassal's influence is making other reviewers. I mean, like, his friends are on his channel now. There's not a lot of other reviewers from down here, I don't think, that aren't associated with the Dice Tower. I don't know. But, yeah, I guess it seems that way. I'm not going to answer that question. It's really nice to see a top 100 list with a number one that changes. Yeah, I didn't do that on purpose. I loved Kingdom Death Monster that much, but I expect my entire list to change drastically from year to year. I don't understand how it couldn't. I think some people just feel like they get a sentimental attachment to games. Like, this game was amazing at some point, and it needs to be on my list even if I haven't played it at all. I don't really understand that logic. There's some games like that on my list. Like, I haven't played this one much, but I do love it that much. But it might have moved around drastically. So, I don't know. It just seemed natural to me. What's the next hot theme? How many people are watching? I'm curious. 54? That's pretty good for me. What's the next hot theme? We've had zombies, westerns, and Vikings. What's next? I think we're still right in the middle of the Viking thing, and that hasn't burned out quite yet, unfortunately. In fact, of those three themes you listed, zombies, westerns, and Vikings, the only one I can tolerate long-term is zombies. There's a few games of the western and Viking persuasion that I like a lot, Flick 'em Up and Blood Rage, but I'm not into those themes very much, especially westerns. I don't understand the obsession with the Old West, especially since it's never portrayed properly at all. But zombies I like, but again, it's probably been beat to death. So yes, we are in need of a new thing. And because time travel is so hard to actually pull off in game, I don't think that's going to be the new trend. I think legacy games will be the new trend, but that's a cool thing because that can be put onto any theme, really. I think pirates are probably due. Pirates have been slowly and steadily working their way up and getting more and more games with that theme. I'm not into pirates either. I guess there's not a lot of themes that I like. I would say expect more video game themed things. That makes sense to me. I'm not going to answer that question. I apologize. What do you think about Ashes by Plaid Hat? Everyone had good things to say about it, and then it just disappeared from everyone's 2015 games list. That's another good two-player game, Ashes. Yeah, I like Ashes a lot. A lot of people liked Ashes. The problem with Ashes is that, and I think I might have pointed this out in my review, and I've heard other people say it, it is so similar to other two-player competitive summoning games like Magic. It's like Magic that uses a dice system for mana instead of lands. Now, I don't want to be too critical about that. I still think it's great because I think that's a very interesting mechanism. And the other subtle differences, like how you stack up spells and like cast multiple spells and multiple creatures, and how you're with your Phoenix Born is like having a Planeswalker out on the table all the time with abilities, and the way you can manipulate the dice with your cards, and there is a lot to like about the game. But it does feel so similar to games of the past that I think that people were not as wowed by it. And this was the year of wow. This was the year of Pandemic Legacy breaking everyone's expectations, and Time Stories being like, what is this game? I don't even know what this is. And for me, it was like Kingdom Death Monster kind of raised the bar for what I wanted from a game. And those other two games did as well. So when you have things like that, and when you have big production games like Forbidden Stars that came out, and even like Flick 'em Up, you may not like Flick 'em Up that much, but it didn't make my top 10 of the year, but it's a big spectacle production of wooden bits. It's harder for a game like Ashes, which is clearly aimed at people who want to do like a tournament scene and competitive matches and stuff. It's harder for a game like that to get some breathing room, I think. I think that's the main issue. But they announced expansions for it. It's obviously doing well enough for them, or at least they're sticking with it for now. So I wouldn't worry about it. I think there are so many board games you can have a lot of simultaneous hot themes. That's true too. Nick, have you played Eminent Domain yet? Am I the only one that gets a Race for the Galaxy feel from it, but better? I played Eminent Domain a long time ago. It might have even been before I had a channel, because I had my own copy of it. I got it in a trade, and I didn't care for it very much. I like deck builders. That just wasn't for me. Like a lot of Tasty Minstrel games, I felt it was very mediocre. And yeah, it has been compared to Race for the Galaxy. Of the two games, Eminent Domain was better, but I hate Race for the Galaxy. But I don't think you're the only person to point that out, for sure. Did I not answer the Warhammer question? I thought I did. The one about the lore? Yeah, I didn't. Well, yeah, I just wasn't up to that point yet, Nelson. Nick, why does Shadows over Camelot get such high praise? Don't get me wrong, I enjoy it a lot, but I feel that other games like BSG and Dead of Winter is much better and deeper games. BSG being Battlestar Galactica being my second favorite game. Well, I do like Dead of Winter a lot more than a lot of other games. So there is that. It's higher up on my list, and they're both in my top 10 though. Shadows over Camelot, for me, I love the theme a lot. I love the components and bits and the artwork. I love the idea of the trader and think it's executed well, because at the end of the day, it's still a very good cooperative game that's very difficult as well. So that's a high mark of praise for me. Adding in the trader element is just another bit of icing on the cake, and the different thematic bits of going for the grail and the sword. I just think it's handled very well, and it's been a very big hit with everyone I've been involved with. While at the same time, even though the game looks like a beast and it can be long, it's not as long as Battlestar Galactica, or perhaps not even as long as Dead of Winter, and it's still relatively easy to teach. You're just making poker hands, essentially, which people have complained about, but I think it's a nice low barrier of entry. So that's why I like it. I can't speak for everyone else, but that's me. We're going to wrap it up soon, but I want to catch up on some of these questions. Have you played Exoplanets? No, I don't really have an interest in it. Can't answer that question. Sorry, Josh. What is your favorite dessert? Desserts, sorry. My favorite dessert is the Gobi. I just like the name. My favorite dessert. I'm not into sweet stuff all that much, but I like the blizzards from Dairy Queen, like the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup blizzards. Is Shadows over Camelot enjoyable 3-player? No. And is the trader a must or not? I'm going to say it's a must. I think, like, I know I might be contradicting myself. I know there is a good cooperative game there that is very difficult, but at the same time, the trader is kind of a must. The threat of a trader. Let me be very clear on that. That's another thing I like about Shadows over Camelot that also is in Dead of Winter. You may not have a trader. In Battlestar Galactica, there are Cylons. There's always at least one Cylon, right? But at least by the second stage of the game. In Shadows, maybe, probably, but you don't know. I've played a game I played a 7-player game, no trader, but we all thought there was. What? I don't know. If you're okay with sharing a little, I'm curious about what went over with your mom, because when I was watching some of your old videos, it seems like you guys were pretty close-knitted. Well, I don't know what I said in the past that made you think that, but my mom and I were not very close, and she died 19 years ago. something like that, 19 or 18 or 19 years ago. So I was either 15 or 16. So it's been a very long time, and we weren't very close to begin with. So, but I don't know. Maybe I do relate stories sometimes about she and I like watching movies on TV together or something like that. Whenever I'm talking about the bad movies I used to watch when I was a kid. What do you do when you really want to play a game but you are alone at home and have no one to play with? No, I've got a lot of games that can be played solo, preferably solo, like Eldritch Horror and Kingdom Death Monster, so that's not really a problem. But I'll usually use the time to do something else that I should have been doing but was neglecting because of how much time I was spending on my games. What episode are you up to in One Piece? I gave up on the show a long time ago. I love One Piece, and I was a very faithful reader of the manga for a long time, but I couldn't keep up with it. But yes, I use the thumbnails and stuff because I still love the idea of the show and the characters. And by the way, it says you continue on. I am currently at episode 15, and it's kind of meh. That's because I think that, first off, I highly recommend the manga over the anime if you have to choose one or the other. But I also think that the early episodes of the anime are pretty rough to get through. It does pick up, though. Have you played Forge War? I feel it is a better version of, I think you mean to say, Lords of Waterdeep. Well, I played the preview prototype version of Forge War, and he won. This was back when I was doing free reviews of, free actual reviews of Kickstarter games. I stopped that practice very soon afterwards for a lot of convenience sake and ethical reasons. But that was one of the few games, maybe the only one, where I was like, I emailed the guy and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to review this because I'm going to trash it. I don't like it at all, one bit. But it's a prototype version. That might have even been the game that broke my back and was like, you know what, I'm not reviewing prototypes anymore because this might be a great game if it was actually finished, but it's going to be a disaster if I review it. So I didn't care for it, and I have no interest in trying the final version either. I have to try the solo mode for Thunderstone. I don't think I've done that yet. Maybe I did. I don't think so. How do you organize a set of winner? It's a bear to set up and deconstruct. That is? Oh, man. You haven't played Eldritch Horror, have you? Dead of Winter is a bit of a pain, but not anywhere near some of the other games I have. So I just throw it in baggies, and I don't have any kind of insert or anything like that. I'm not on the whole insert bandwagon. If I had infinite money, I guess I would be, but I don't see the point. I'd rather buy a game for the price of those. What is your opinion about Neon Genesis Evangelion? Have you seen the rebuilds? And why was Rebuild 3.0 so bad? I have not watched Rebuild 3.0 because of the bad and negative reviews that it's gotten. I'm so worried about it because I love Evangelion. I grew up on that show. It got me through my teens. When I first started watching the Evangelion TV series, I was the same age as the characters in the show, and it spoke a lot to me about the issues of depression and isolation and how to relate to other human beings. And so I have a lot of sentimental attachment to the show and the series and the characters, and I was very happy with the first two rebuilds because I thought that they, for the most part, they were just retellings of the old series, but it looked really sleek. It was very compressed. It got rid of a lot of the nonsense. It just got to the point of the action. I thought it was very good. And I was hoping now maybe they can continue this trend with some new content, and apparently they failed. I'm very worried about watching the third one, but I will have to do it at some point. I even liked End of Evangelion, even though it was just this giant clusterfuck of symbolic imagery. And yes, I am a huge Asuka fan. I am on board with Asuka, even though she and I would kill each other in real life. I clash with that type of personality, but I like to see it on screen. What's wrong with buying games from Amazon? I'm poor and they have good deals. Do not misunderstand me, Josh. I was not saying that it was bad to buy from Amazon at all. I was talking about the situation in context of Asmodee North America and Fantasy Flight Games, now just Asmodee North America, saying that they were only going to sell to select large volume retailers, probably like Amazon and Target. That's fine. But a lot of hardcore hobby board gamers get their stuff at deep discounts from Cool Stuff, Miniature Market, Board Game Bliss, my sponsor. And if those types of companies are going to be cut out or can't sell online anymore because they have brick and mortar stores, that's a serious problem for us. Not to mention that those stores oftentimes get things earlier than, say, even Amazon does. Again, no problem buying from Amazon. But a lot of us who are in the hobby board gaming market would prefer to buy at other places first, especially if you're a reviewer and you want to buy it sooner. And so my point was, yeah, for the large market share of Asmodee North America, they're not going to be, they're going to be fine buying, those people are going to be fine buying from Amazon. The rest of us are kind of put out by that. So it was not a knock against Amazon or the people that buy from it at all. Hi, Nick. I got Pax Porphyriana for Christmas, and it looks like a super interesting card game. Have you ever played it? I have not, but it does look very interesting, and I've heard some very good things about it. That's a game I would like to try at some point. But right now, I'm not looking to get any more games to add to my overwhelming queue of stuff, but if someone brought it and wanted to play it, I would not turn it down. I can't answer that question. I apologize. Crap, I just highlighted everything in the queue, and that was alright. There we go. Robotic dinosaurs need to be the next hot theme. Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm okay with it, at least. Better than Vikings. If I don't answer your question, it's not because I'm, mad at you, or I just don't want to answer certain questions. I apologize. I feel there's a lot of things, obviously, I'll answer that are personal to me, but there's some things I just don't want to deal with, so I won't answer the questions. I feel Ashes is unbalanced in my experiences with it. That was a complaint with some of the games that I played. I was also a playtester for a very brief period of time on that game, and I thought some of those hiccups would be kind of ironed out. But I think that they'll show you stats. Plaidhat is very good about this. They will show you stats that say, no, our playtesters have played this game and there was, by the way, I didn't playtest the game very much personally, but when I was involved with the playtesting group, there's not much I can say, but I see the stats of what everyone's doing, and this game was playtested a bajillion times. And I'm sure that they could show you stats if they were willing to, and I'm sure they would be, that would say, no, look, we've playtested with all these different factions in Phoenixborn, and we're at a close to like 50-50 rate for like all of these different matchups and combinations of win percentages. But I think that a lot of times it comes down to user entry points. Like if you're new to the game, I think there are some Phoenixborn who are way easier to use and have obvious things that they do very well and will sort of stomp all over the other Phoenixborn. And I think that's like that in any game. Summoner Wars, another Plaidhat game. But I think they playtest them enough that those things kind of iron out. So I'm not worried about the balance of the game. It just doesn't hit the table that often. I solved the problem of Champions of Midgard generic meeples by using Blood Rage Warriors as workers. The game looks amazing. Try it out. Yeah, I probably will, as a matter of fact, the next time I play Champions of Midgard, which might be soon. That game, it's a good worker placement game I should be recommending to the new people that come to the group. How's Zombicide Black Plague? It looks great. Can't wait to play it. I might try a solo play. Maybe I'll do that. I think maybe I'll do a solo play today ahead of playing with my group tomorrow. Wow, I might not get the review up until like Monday. And I don't imagine it's going to like blow me away with new mechanisms, but I think some of the changes they made to Black Plague look very interesting to me. Aside from Kingdom Death Monster, what are your top 5 solo games? I'm going to defer that question because I think that once I finally get Dawn, the only solo game I'm waiting on right now is Dawn of the Zeds 3rd edition. Once I've played that and determine whether I like it or not, I think I will. I'm going to make my top 10 solo games list. Then you'll know for sure. What Descent expansion would you recommend? I have not played through them. I own a couple that I haven't actually played. I'm actually going to be playing the fully cooperative adventures solo and see how those go. And then those might be the ones that I choose. Let's see. Where are we? Any criticisms of Kingdom Death Monster? Sure. I mean, I'm always cautious. I know that I'm like way overhyped about that game, but I'm always cautious to tell people that it is not for everybody at any point. Assembling the miniatures is a colossal pain in the ass. I definitely acknowledge that. It's got very, very dark and violent theme. Sometimes not so much. Sometimes very violent and dark for some of the artwork and imagery. That's not going to be for everybody. It's just not going to be. It's very long and involved. It definitely is a campaign game. If it was a one versus all game, I wouldn't like it nearly as much because I wouldn't be able to play it solo. But being able to play a campaign by myself is fine for me. And playing with other people is even better. But if I can't do that, at least I have that outlet. But if you don't like fully cooperative games, if you don't like long campaign style games, if you don't like spending a lot of money on it, and I always tell people, I got it at a deep discount on the Kickstarter. The amount of money that I spent on the game is a lot, but is only barely, for all the expansions, is only a little bit more than what someone would have to pay for the game now just for the core game. So the Kickstarter backers really made out like bandits. What can I say? And so I understand that the money is also prohibitive to other people as well. But I try to keep people's expectations realistic about the games that I like. Do you think Minecraft would make a good board game? If so, what kind of game? That's a tough one. It had to be Legos of some sort, right? I don't know enough about Minecraft. I'm sorry. I know like a lot of kids love that. My boss's kids love that, and it's a whole other world. It's a generational gap I know nothing about. Like how people like PewDiePie. I have to acknowledge that the guy's amazing because of what he's done, but I have no interest in watching it. But kids do. Have you played Roadkill Rally? My brother got it for me for Christmas, but I haven't played it yet. Excuse me. No, I haven't. All right, we're getting close to the end, so we're going to wrap it up, guys. What's the term for the regret you feel when you back a game, Kickstarter game for $70 only to see it available around the same time in a daily sale at CSI for $34.99? I'm slowly learning my lesson. I know. I've been there too. And sometimes it's amusing to me, even if it's like Schadenfreude on myself, to see a game that's obviously not selling well at CSI and just keeps getting discounted and discounted and discounted. Although I am very happy to see Game of Crowns being on sale for $5, which is $4 too much, really. Because that game is terrible. But I had to buy it outright for like $25. My game night has been overtaken by X-Wing, guys. That is all they want to play. How do you tackle game group challenges like that? That hasn't really happened in my group because we have so many different people coming each night, and I just force them to play whatever I'm playing. Well, part of the group I'm forced to play something, and people are more than willing to jump on that. So I don't know. That is a tough one. You might have to bring in some new blood or find other groups to play with. What are your plans for New Year's Eve? I wish you a very nice evening and thank you for the great content this year. Well, thank you, Nikolai, for being a fan and for watching, and I wish you one as well. Actually, someone talked me into moving my Wednesday group to Thursday, which is New Year's Eve. So we're just going to do gaming, hopefully. Why is X-Wing played much more than Attack Wing? Personally, I think Attack Wing leaps and bounds over X-Wing. That said, I'm a Trekkie, so that happens. Well, I think you just answered your own question. It's theme. Theme. Star Wars has been hot forever, is especially hot for right now, so you can especially expect that X-Wing is going to get even more popular in the next year. And Star Trek is kind of like on the down low right now. I mean, you have new movies, but they have nothing to do with the old Star Trek universe or with spaceship battles. It's just about like, watch the Plinkett reviews for Star Trek and Star Trek in the Darkness. It's also awesome, but... So there's that. I liked D&D Attack Wing. I didn't keep up with it, but I thought it was very interesting because that theme appealed to me. The other ones didn't. That was the first Attack Wing or Flight Path System game I played because that was the only one that appealed to me. I have Tail Feathers, which is not the same system, but is really the same, mostly the same. And that's interesting as well, but it's all about the theme. Favorite video game and book if you're a reader? Mine are Final Fantasy VII. My favorite books, I'm still going to say his Dark Materials trilogy. My favorite video game is Final Fantasy Tactics, yeah. Do you enjoy less serious D&D games? If so, have you watched Yogg's Quest? I don't know what that is. I apologize. And And we'll make this the final question. It kind of reiterates what I said before, but I just watched your comment review. Thanks for the great video. Thank you. Does it play well with 2 or 3 or best with 4 or 5? I have not played it with 2. It's the only player account I haven't played it with, but it works very, very well at 3, 4, or 5. I think any of those player accounts are perfectly fine. Maybe 4 technically would be the best for, time together with complexity and table space, but I think any of those player accounts are fine, and yeah, I'm totally down with that. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and end it there, but thank you so much for watching, guys. Thanks for spending part of your holiday weekend with me. We'll do it again next week on maybe I'll do it on New Year's Day. We'll see. I'll think about it. But because everyone will have the day off. And it's less of a we got to get together thing. But yeah, I love my Q&As. I love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting me. I've had a rough morning, and I'm kind of been, I don't know. I need to stop engaging with people online other than you guys, because I'm getting irate over people and their stupid comments about my comments. But and Paul, that's quite all right. But thank you so much, guys and gals. I love you all. Take care. You have a fantastic holiday weekend, and Merry belated Christmas.